Hello and welcome to Soothing Pod. I am Arif, and if you are here to listen to a dreamy story that will soothe you and comfort you, you are in the right place. Tonight, I am going to tell you a famous story, and I hope it sends you off on a great adventure in dreamland. The Man in the Iron Mask is part of the novel by the French author Alexandre Dumas and is centered around the Three Musketeers. But before we begin, allow your eyes to close, your body to get heavy, and your mind to relax, forgetting everything and letting it wander to when King Louis XIV was the ruler of France. To start relaxing before the story, get comfortable in your bed or on your pillow. Inhale and exhale, feeling your body release any tension, letting go of the cares of the day and any complicated thoughts. As you listen to this story, I want you to allow yourself the gift of pause. A story can be a simple one, yet so luxurious. We spend so much of our time thinking that we often don't leave any time during our day to just be still, to be quiet, to reflect, and to pause. But right now, that is all you need to do. Let your mind be carried away to fantastic realms of adventure, love, and courage. And when you are ready, I'll tell you the tale of the Man in the Iron Mask. Our story begins in a dark, damp, and quiet prison cell. It is inside the terrifying Bastille, known throughout the land and beyond, the most famous prison in France. Aramis, one of the Three Musketeers, has come to hear the confession of a certain prisoner, since after many years spent fighting, Aramis has decided to become a priest. The prisoner, whose identity is hidden behind a mask, has a curious story. He does not even know his own identity because, as a boy, he was kept at home in a sort of house arrest. As he grew older and started asking questions, he was told that his father was dead, but that his mother was still alive. Aramis knows the secret, one kept for so long and buried deep by the royal family of France. It is King Louis XIV who sits on the throne now, a handsome yet arrogant and vain youth. Aramis bends down to speak in a whisper to the prisoner and reveal the real reason for coming to the prison on that day. In truth, the musketeer turned priest is there to rescue the prisoner and bring him out of the darkness into the light. And so the truth is revealed, the dark secret that has been kept from so many for so long. The masked prisoner is, in fact, Philippe, King Louis's identical twin brother. Aramis reveals his plan to Philippe to switch him with Louis and put him on the throne, since Louis has been abusing his power for many years. The secret will be kept at all cost. No one will ever know. But how will the prisoner manage to escape? He will put on the priest's robes and exit in a guise hidden by the folds of his garments. The real prisoner is then replaced with a dummy corpse, previously smuggled in the folds of the priest's robes, it turns out. The priest tells the guard that he discovered this prisoner had died of the plague, and so, to protect everyone else, they must burn the body. And so, when the priest is let out, the two men escape. Waiting for them are their loyal friends who, with the help of a canoe, safely row out of the prison walls. You see, this story takes place at a time when the country is ruled by King Louis XIV, who is mishandling its finances, creating and funding wars instead of building up the economy. As the royals live in wealth and luxury, the poor of France are starving. It does not seem that the king cares enough about his countrymen to make things right. He is young and foolish, and seems concerned only about showing militaristic powers and parading pomp. We find the three musketeers who once served the former king with pride, are now older and retired. There is Aramis, now a priest of the Jesuits, Porthos, who is fond of frequenting the most popular Parisian brothels, and Athos, whose son Raoul is a soldier who just returned from the war and is eager to become a musketeer himself. The woman Raoul loves is Christine Belafort, to whom he wants to propose marriage. But one day, at a party, the king is smitten with Christine's beauty and wants her for himself. Although he tries to seduce the young woman, she is equally in love with Raoul and keeps her love for him alone. Offended by her unwilling behavior, the king devises a plan to send Raoul into the thick of battle where he meets his fate. When the news of his son's death reaches Athos, he vows to seek vengeance. He assumes that the other musketeers may have known about the king's plan and have not forewarned him about it. Athos is in a fit of rage and cannot be consoled. Meanwhile, the king moves on with his plans to have Christine for himself and eventually beds her. And these were just some of the drastic events which led to the three musketeers plotting together to overthrow the king. To do so, they would have to rescue the masked prisoner, Philippe, from Bastille, and set him on the throne instead of his twin brother, Louis. It turns out that Philippe is quite the opposite of his arrogant twin. This meek young man has suffered greatly. He has known only chains and confinement his whole life. This has humbled him and made him compassionate and gentle. It is soon revealed to all that Philippe was sent away by his father, King Louis XIII. Among many political reasons, one of them was supposedly to avoid dynastic warfare. But the young boy could not be hidden forever, and it was only a matter of time before Louis discovered Philippe's existence. Instead of putting him away for good, he simply thought of a way to keep him hidden from the world and his identity covered: the Iron Mask. It was cold and heavy. The prison was dark and lonely. Philippe spent many years there, years that he thought would go by just like the ones before. He felt almost like a living corpse, with no hope for the light of day. The king hopes to seduce Christine, lying to her that his intention was to have her lover serve at the furthest point from the heat of battle. But even though she allows herself to end up in the bed of the king, the young woman cannot deny the fact that there is no real love in her heart for him. While Louis is seemingly tormented by all this personal drama, Athos, Porthos, and Aramis are teaching Philippe how to act as a royal. There is a certain way he must walk, talk, even dance. He must learn how to fight as well, and this takes some days. However, the Musketeers know that they do not have long for their plan to be carried out. They must act swiftly. During one of the king's fancy balls, the Musketeers abduct him and attempt to switch him with his twin without anyone realizing. The twin brother, Philippe, is now dressed in royal yellow with a tailored, dazzling suit and fine coiffure fit for a king. The plan is set into motion. Louis is whisked away, and Philippe arrives at the dance floor. The only thing which might give him away is his gentle demeanor. He is kind with the ladies and helps those who almost trip while swaying and dancing in time to the music. The crowd sees how the king is being unusually polite, and some wonder if they should change their minds about how they feel about him. The party seems to be going well until Christine storms into the dance hall and pointedly accuses the king of murder. In a fit of rage, with tears streaming down her face, she starts demanding that the king faces up to his selfishness and greed. Of course, Philippe has no idea what she is talking about, even though she is addressing him. He wisely assumes this must be one of his brother's mistresses, and so he calms her down with the promise to make amends when the evening is over. D'Artagnan, who still retains his loyalty to the king, suddenly realizes that all is not as it seems. He instructs the guards to take their positions and close off all the exits. His orders could not have come a second too soon, for the guards now surround the escaping 3 musketeers, who are on their way back to the Bastille prison, this time with King Louis as captive. They have not made it out in time. The soldiers all catch up to them, and fighting ensues. Under a moonlit sky, the men battle on the side of their loyalty, and in their hearts, the musketeers desire to save all of France. Their plan would have worked, could have worked, but D'Artagnan is too clever. In the midst of their fighting, he suddenly realizes the truth, that the prisoner they are trying to swap is in fact the brother of the king. The twins' mother now enters the scene, the queen, who knew all along about the plot to keep one of her children hidden. Now, before you think that this was the cruelest thing a mother could have done to her son, you must know that in those days, a lot of political power was beyond the women's control. Queen Anne had no choice but to see one of her babies taken away. And it was an act that broke her heart, haunting her for years. She is still in bitter pain, and even more so at seeing her other child again. D'Artagnan is confused, while Louis's heart is still hardened against his brother. I am the rightful king, he claims. Send this impostor back to the Bastille. Philippe is desperate. He tells his brother he would rather die than see darkness under the mask again. He pleads with his king brother to kill him instead. Now we find our heroes, the 3 musketeers, back on the scene of the action. After everyone realized the truth, they all wonder how and with whom their loyalties should lie. Of course, they try to stop Louis from putting Philippe to death. Fighting ensues, with D'Artagnan, captain of the guards, leading his troops again. But this time, He prevents them from injuring any of the musketeers because, you see, they are all his friends, and with them is where his deepest loyalty lies. The scenes of fighting ensue, and suffice to say that our three musketeers are still fit for a fight. They possess the valor, strength, and agility of the king's men, who are trained and led by their friend D'Artagnan. When the fighting dies down at D'Artagnan's command, he reveals to them an even bigger secret of his own. And it is a secret that leaves everyone in disbelief. Queen Anne was his secret lover, and the two boys were his sons. However, he never knew that there had been two boys, only one. So this is why he had sworn his whole life to defend and protect the King of France. He was serving Louis out of fatherly devotion. When he now learns that he has another son, he embraces him. The tears of recognition and acknowledgement and joy streaming down his face. Of course, now Philippe and Louis are also both confused, but it is with a deep and quiet joy that Philippe faces the man he wanted to meet his entire life, his father. His brother Louis is not so ecstatic. In another fit of rage, he lunges at his brother, attempting to silence him and retain the crown. It is D'Artagnan, his own father, who comes between them. It is the father who, in the end, suffers the blow. It seems for a moment that all is lost, and yet, with his last dying breath, D'Artagnan reminds the boys that they are brothers. His passing must be the end of this misery, he tells them. He is content if his sons do no harm to each other. And now that he has seen Philippe's face, D'Artagnan can sleep forever in peace. All for one, and one for all, are the last words that slip from D'Artagnan's lips. The other three friends join him in the musketeer call before arising to salute him one last time. As he takes his last breath, everyone present realizes that it was indeed D'Artagnan, the brave soldier who had been wearing an iron mask and keeping the deepest buried secret all this time. The three musketeers are heartbroken to see him leave this realm and journey into the next. They have been through so much together, sacrificed, fought, and bled. They all thought they knew their friend and mentor, but this comes as the final surprise. Before another battalion breaks into their chambers, the three musketeers quickly make Louis and Philippe swap clothes. The hot-headed Louis is now in the iron mask, quite unable to escape. Philippe now takes his position as the king and leader, with Athos, Porthos, and Aramis as his royal council and guides. When the guards appear, Philippe orders the guards to take Louis away, whose face is now covered by the iron mask, and lock him away in the great prison. There is a bit of confusion, to be sure, but it is all settled when the three musketeers kneel before Philippe, honoring him as king. With this act, they indicate to the other soldiers who is to be the true leader, the one who is destined to take the country forward to a better future. After these events took place, France was reformed. King Philippe, under the alias of Louis XIV, was a kind ruler, ensuring that his people always had enough food and finding ways to work towards prosperity. Above all, he strove for peace in the kingdom and tried to leave a legacy. Today, his story is still told to adults and children alike. And with his story, the tale of the three musketeers and D'Artagnan, who secured for him a place on the throne. There was never another king like him, and some folks say that there never will be again. I hope you enjoyed this bedtime adventure, and that you will now drift off into a realm of your own fantastic journeys. Thank you for joining me on Soothing Pod. I'll be with you again next time.